But at the end of the day, I don't need to sacrifice my sanity or my team member's sanity dealing with someone who's just not going to be a good fit for us and is going to cause all those problems and be the loud person, be the obnoxious person, because there are enough people in the world who are great, are our ideal client, and would be lovely to work with.
Are you a believer of the old idea that the customer is always right? What happens when the rule comes into conflict with a trusted employee? Is there room for a better, more holistic approach to your firm's service? Our guest this week is Stephanie Everett, and she's here to advocate for a people-focused and not just client-focused approach to running your firm and serving your clients. Stephanie is the VP of Community Success at Lawyerist and runs her own law firm consulting and growth coaching firm. Stephanie and I discuss what it means to be people-focused and how many firm owners and managers often miss the mark by putting their employees second. Your employees are a truly valuable resource, and understanding their goals and needs is crucial to your firm's success. Now, this doesn't mean that you're ignoring your clients' needs. Rather, it's about finding the right balance between all three legs of the stool: owners, employees, and clients, and aligning your values with your employees. Let's get to this great chat. I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chat bots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front lines so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Hey, Stephanie, it's great to have you today.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on the show.
It was so much fun seeing you among many other friends at Tech Show, now a few months ago, but it's also great to have you on because as a friend of Lawyerist since I feel like episode 1, when back in the old days, it's it's like, oh, I'm a big boy podcaster now, and having you on my show to talk about things. So yeah,
I'm excited to be here. It's always fun to hang out. We always have good chats.
Exactly. And so when we were sitting here talking about this both on email beforehand and immediately before we started, the thought came up of how do we think about the relationship between lawyers as owners, lawyers and employees as employees of the firm, and then the third party, our clients. How do we focus on any of these? And it's one that I've talked about before, where we can't be exclusively to the detriment of employers or owners and employees. Focus on the clients. And Lawyerist has talked a lot about it. So Stephanie is the mouthpiece for Lawyerist. Where do we even start thinking about this?
I know, right? Oh, pressure. Here's the thing that I've been thinking about a lot. I think we often write about being client-centered, and in fact, wrote an entire book about it. And I still think there's an important piece there. But maybe I had this epiphany a couple weeks ago that I was like, maybe we need to be a little bit more nuanced and broaden the concept. And maybe what we're really trying to say is we need to be people focused. And the people that I think we should focus on really are three, main stakeholders in your business. So of course there's clients, and we care about our clients and we care about their experience, but not exclusively. We have to also care about our team. I mean, I keep thinking a lot about, if we hire the right people and nurture them and support them, they in turn will provide a great client experience to our clients. So they have to be a part of the equation. And then the third piece is the owner themselves. And sometimes we forget about ourselves. We leave ourselves out of the equation, but we have to be focused on what we need and what we want as a piece of a successful equation.
Yeah, and I was at so last night I was at a happy hour for one of the law firms that I do some work with. I saw a friend who had worked at a previous different law firm with me. We were just talking about how, I think it was important to focus on client-centered because for many lawyers, and especially at the firm that this other friend and I had worked at, it was 100% owner-focused. It was not associate, administrative assistant, front desk, anybody other than the partners. It was partner-focused and probably, sliding scale depending on how much money you brought in. That is how important you were. And so we had to get away from, for those of us who were open to it, owner focused because, you were doing all sorts of, hey, it's 1984 still. Let's continue to fax, or we can't edit PDFs. That I'm sure will violate some of the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we first started preaching client-centered and client-focused, that was a little revolutionary, right? And the examples were like, think about what we ask our clients to do. They have to drive to our office and where we sit behind our desk and they come to us on our terms and when we want. And they pay based on our arcane methods. I still, unfortunately, have a lawyer who mails me invoices and asks me to send him a check. And boggles my mind, but like that was what we were dealing with, right? Like, how do we get lawyers to just turn on a different part of their brain and start thinking about how clients could experience a frictionless or less friction experience? And so I think you've been obviously leading the charge on that conversation too. So I think we've gotten attorneys' attentions and they're starting to see it now. And so now we get to add in the next layer, and it's like, okay, how do we also turn the conversation into thinking about our teams and how all of that fits together?
Right, because here's where, as the owner of my firm, it's very different for me to sit and look at things and say, oh, okay, well, we're going to invest in this new thing or that new thing. But I've got to balance, well, one, can I afford it as the owner? Two, will it actually make things better for the clients? And then three, it may be some whiz-bang new tech thing. Am I going to be the only one in the firm that's going to be able to use it? At this point, I'm really glad that Brad in my office knows how to use Zapier, because that was one I wasn't sure I'd ever get off my plate. But I don't deal with Zapier anymore, as much as it somewhat pains me. But that was sort of the win of, we can speed things up, get information distributed. That's the sort of, it works everywhere and not just kind of incidentally. We're looking for how can we make it work everywhere.
Yeah. That's great. I'm glad I don't touch Zapier at all. I have much smarter people who can do that for me.
Yeah. And so, just kind of even thinking back to the hotel days, what did they do? Well, obviously I've got the job where I'm working in a hotel. I've got to deal with some clients who may not accept no. But on the back end, the hotel had kind of prepped us for certain things. They also had some great benefits, including like, how can we make sure you appreciate being here? Even though we obviously worked in the hotel, we got free room nights at other Four Seasons. And just thinking about it, how can, a lot of us are working at law firms that maybe we can't or don't want to help our employees, because if you're in family law, you don't want to be like, hey, everybody gets their divorce, the first divorce is on the house. But thinking through it, like, as owners, what are other things that we can do to offer to our employees that maybe it's kind of free off the shelf for us?
I mean, the easiest answer that came to my hand when you said free. Before you said free, I was about to rattle off some stuff.
I'll take others too.
Yeah. We'll get to the ones that cost money, but I think the easiest thing is to be invested in your team and letting them know. Mm-hmm. And so as an owner, if you're not checking in with your team. You don't have to be their best friend. Probably you don't want to be their best friend, but you need to know something about them and about their life, and about their professional goals. Like, what do they want to do? What do they want to learn? Maybe they secretly want to learn Zapier and they just had no idea how to even ask you. So you need to, the easiest and freest thing you can do is just to simply invest your time. I mean, maybe there's a cost to that because it is your time, but to converse with your team members and get to know them, take an interest in them. They will appreciate it, because then they will feel that they really respond to that. Wow, this person they really care about me. And then there's simple things you could do, like get them, maybe there is some training they want to take or a business book they want to read. And so there's so many things you can do. So I think when you show that you care about them and what it is they want to achieve, that shows up in their work product.
I really like that, Stephanie. Again, it seems so obvious, but again, like, we're not just coming to the office every day just to do things. People ultimately are volunteers with us.
Yeah.
Yes, they're getting paid, but like, they have a choice to go other places.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just even the framing of things. So like quick example, we used to give a bonus when you hit your anniversary of being with the team. So at 1 year, 2 years, a lot of people do this. You get a gift, you get something. We reframed that recently we call them now dream credits. And at the end of the day, between us, it's still just money. And by the way, it's taxable because of the rules. So we totally follow the rules, people, don't worry. But at the end of the day, we were able to reframe that. And now we have a team lunch where we dream, and we encourage we have dream sessions every quarter. And we ask our team members to dream about what it is they want. And and sometimes people are willing to share things. We've had really interesting discussions with our team members by hearing some of their dreams. And then other people will be like, that's my dream too. And it never goes the direction you think it's going to go. I mean, I'll just give a small share, is that a lot of our discussions revolved around how to dissolve of your body after death in a way that was environmentally sound. And that was somebody's dream. They wanted to have a plan for that. And so what we do with our dream credits is, instead of just saying, here's a bonus for being on the team for a year, we say, we're going to give you a dream credit to fund a dream. What dream? And we have them identify something. And so because of that, we've had a team member take a blacksmithing course, and we've had someone, get a fancy massage that was their dream. They'd never had a spa experience like that, or take pottery. I mean, the team paid for me to go on a personal retreat. Like, I went away for a weekend by myself, which I had never really done, I don't think. Just like, not business travel, like, hey, I'm just going to go somewhere by myself for 3 days. So. No,
I really like that. It ties back to, occasionally you'll hear about businesses that, we give everybody a bonus for Amazon Prime or whatever it is. But really, it's just cash. Like, the firm isn't paying for Amazon Prime directly. They're just saying, Amazon Prime costs you $100. We're just going to add $100 to your paycheck. And just even framing it as, here's your money for Amazon Prime, or here's your subscription to the Max Fun podcast network for the next year at whatever level, or do whatever the heck you want to with it.
Right. Yeah. So it's just about it's just a message that we care, that we actually want to hear what your dreams are, and we want to help maybe make a little bit of that come true. And then that can show up in lots of ways. So like this year, we were able to partner with a company that provides free therapy sessions for all of our team members. And it's super reasonable. As an employer, like, it does cost me a little bit of money, but you would be shocked at how little we actually pay for this service. And it gives the team members the ability to just go on and schedule a Zoom call with a therapist, because it's all electronic and we don't see it or know about it. We have, like, you can ask a therapist a question, you get all the, and they send a very thoughtful response. And then we have this little team check-in now. So before our team calls, they go in through the app, and you say how you're feeling that day, which has been super interesting and helpful. But even like when the Ukraine war broke out, or whenever, when Russia invaded Ukraine, my team was like, we came to a meeting and people were like, wow, it's really weird. We have to work today and this terrible thing's happening. And that was on people's mind. And I was able to say, you're right. And I don't have all the answers, but why don't you check in with one of our therapists about that? And a couple of people did. Just being able to, so like, it relieves me. It tells me I can take care of my team's mental health, but I don't have to be the therapist, which I should not be because I'm not a therapist.
No. And that's, so I know already I will get a few people who are going to ask, Stephanie, what is that service called? Because
yeah, it's called Spill. And we actually, and I can put, if you have show notes, we can put a link in there. If you email them and say that you heard about them from Lawyerist, they will give you a discount. So, you know, we formalized our partnership with them only because I was so excited about when we started using them. I was like, law firms could really benefit from this. Can we promote you? And they were wow. Absolutely. So, they're super fun. And I don't know, I think this is a fun fact. All their therapists it's actually based in the UK, and all their therapists are licensed in the UK. So when you get on for a session, they just have such a great accent and voice. It just automatically calms you down.
Excellent. Yes. You know, just something to get you out of where you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how we can do things to help them, like help our employees, well, say recentered, again, showing we care in one direction, almost outside of the office.
Yeah.
One of the things that we also talked about was the nonsense myth that gets perpetuated probably by customers that the customer is always right.
Yes.
And you already had one story. I know I've got one, but why don't you start with what your husband's story was?
Yeah, it's kind of silly, but we used to own a bar/restaurant. Dream come true for my husband. I'm just going to tell everyone right now that should not be your dream. If you think that's your dream, call me so I can talk you out of it. But he was waiting tables one of the lunch shifts because that's what you do as the owner, and people call in sick or whatever and you have to wait tables. So somebody came into the restaurant and I guess they weren't getting their drink service fast enough, and they just started like snapping at him. You know, you could just imagine, like, you know.
Oh, just actual snapping.
Snapping in a very aggressive manner, according to him. And, you know, they just were demanding that he get there, that person wanted all of his attention at that very moment, and he was doing other things and was very busy, and he was just like, no, you don't get to treat me like that, me or anyone on my team. And so he just politely said, please leave, we're not going to serve you lunch today. Because you don't get to just be a jerk to people. No. And, you know, as I said, like I was thinking back, 1 minute memory from the hotel jumps out immediately. And it was some, you know, Friday, probably a Saturday night. There had been a wedding downstairs in the ballroom. And one of the gentlemen had come up and he had had a little too much to drink, but not so much that we could throw him out. But he had ordered a hamburger to the bar, which is totally fine, but then behaved like a child, and at some point was just literally throwing the cheeseburger around, like just throwing it. Like picking it up and just throwing a burger?
Just throwing it because he was having his own tantrum about whatever. And this was the line that was a little bit different for the Four Seasons. Like, look, we'd rather you not call the cops on anybody ever. Like, unless somebody is really in trouble, please don't call the cops, because it just looks bad and it causes way more problems. Doesn't mean zero consequences, but it does mean please don't call them. And when security came up, we were talking because I was the night manager. All right, what can we do? What is our line that we're going to force him to choose? And it really was, sir, you can go to your room or we can call the police. And those are your choices. You know, you may not stay in this bar any longer. You're not behaving in a way that, you know, like that's just not acceptable. There's no way we're going to let you get away with this. And it was amazing that we knew what our line was, and it really focused his mind, and he kind of calmed down and was gone. And really all it took was just kind of snapping him out of it.
Mm-hmm. But you felt supported as an employee in that moment, that you knew what your options were, and that, you know, your boss, whoever you reported to at that time, was not going to be upset if that you asked this person to leave the restaurant.
Right. I mean, I was the night manager at the time. Really, things came down to either me or the lobby lounge manager, who first, I can't remember I think it came to me because he was being crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you doing? And so, here, talk to security, just make sure we had our stories and lines together so that we knew, like, if he doesn't behave, then he will be physically escorted out. If, your option is to walk quietly to your room right now. Your second option is to be, escorted by these large gentlemen directly to your room, or we can call the police, and then you can tell them why you're throwing cheeseburgers at people.
Nice. I know. I bet you have some good stories from that.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's a different line of podcasts. They come out here occasionally, but it's, again, thinking through, the customer's not always going to be right.
Yeah. And I think as lawyers, we sometimes deal with really needy, demanding, even cross the line into jerk clients, right? And I think there's a lot of places, and I've worked at some, and I bet you have too, where as the employee, you thought, well, you just had to deal with it. You have to deal with the obnoxious client who's going to push buttons and go too far. And I think that idea grew out of that mentality, because we kind of grew up thinking and hearing the customer's always right, the client's always right, and so you have to just put up with it. And I think you and I are in agreement that that's not always the case. Like, no, and it's okay. And as employers, we should be clear about what's acceptable and what's not, but then empower our team members to not have to put up with all that BS, because honestly, life's too short.
Right. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there are firms that'll say, no, you'll just put up with it. But, it just, at the bare minimum of unethical and unconscionable treatment, illegal, we're not going to do that. But taking a step further, if you see these sorts of things, you should stop it. This is what we want. I want to own a law firm where I don't have to worry about any of my employees doing anything else to any of the other ones, or any of the clients for that matter. So be nice to everybody as the bare minimum, and here are some lines. And it doesn't mean there isn't some give in there for playful joking around with each other.
Yeah. I wonder if some of this comes out of this idea of a scarcity mindset, right? Like when you think there's not enough, when you think that if we don't serve this client and every client who comes into my door, I won't make it, then that's what I think these ideas of the client always being right kind of come from. But
I like that.
Which I believe, like, there's a place for everyone. Like, I've had lawyers contact me for coaching that I've just said, this isn't going to be a good fit. We're not going to accept you, right? We don't accept everybody, because we can tell and sometimes it's a little bit scary to do that, because, you're working, there's all the things that happen when you're a business owner. But at the end of the day, I don't need to sacrifice my sanity or my team member's sanity dealing with someone who's just not going to be a good fit for us, and is going to cause all those problems, and be the loud person, be the obnoxious person, because there are enough people in the world who are great, are our ideal client, and would be lovely to work with.
Oh, Stephanie, and there it is. There's the line, and that's why we're doing this. We have the choice. There are plenty of good clients. You've got to be strong enough to say, look, I'm only going to deal with the nice people, and we're going to make sure that we don't let the bad ones in. Yeah. Because, yeah, exactly. They're, again, the comparison of Four Seasons to, and not to Motel 6, there's nothing wrong with either, but they've made choices. They charge differently, and they accept different things.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're really clear on who it is you want to serve and how you want to serve them, and then educate your team on those same things, then you should have complete alignment, and you should be okay, and you'll know exactly what works for you and your team and what doesn't.
Exactly. So there we go. I think this is probably as good a place as any to shut it down. You protect your team by drawing those lines. Then you take care of them. They can take care of people because they're not worried about getting abused.
I love it.
Oh, Stephanie, that's great. And much earlier than normal.
That's what we do. We just get right to it. We get to the gold and we're done.
Excellent. Stephanie, if our listeners are looking for more from you at Lawyerist, where can they find you?
Yeah, just head to lawyerist.com, lawyerist.com. And I'm Stephanie at lawyerist.com. You can always reach out to me directly as well.
Excellent. Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, John and Bobby here after our interview. Bobby, that was a lot of fun. And
That's great.
I think Stephanie really hit the nail on the head with the scarcity mindset driving a lot of the problems. It's the fear that we may have of no clients, and so we've got to accept just everything. I think that's a really deep insight, and I really like that.
I did too, and I think people think about the scarcity. It's the wrong scarcity they're thinking about. The real scarcity is like good employees. The real scarcity are these people that you trust your company with, and having their back is oftentimes more important than having the customer's back.
Oh, exactly. We want to focus on clients. We want to take care of them, but if we don't take care of everybody else, again, the clients are going to be the most changeable aspect in your practice. It doesn't matter, volume practice or one or two clients. More than likely, the clients are going to be the ones who change the most. And you do have to have some callousness. It's the only word I'm coming up with right now. You just have to accept that they are going to leave you more frequently than your employees. And your employees obviously are going to change more frequently than your owners. And it doesn't mean you disregard any of them. It just means you have to accept there are going to be some changes, but you have to value all three of those groups. One of the notes I took for us is, what should you have to deal with? What is within bounds for what you'll take from a client? Not to say, don't push too far, but if this is acceptable behavior from a client. We have clients who are dealing with the loss of a loved one. You may get some emotional outbursts or people who just, they're not thinking. Kind of give them the space for that, because everybody deals with things on their own ultimately. Give them the space for that. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that they get to invade your private space in ways that you're uncomfortable with. And just giving examples of behavior, again, what's acceptable. These are lines that we want, you should be aware of, but also in coming up with firm values, knowing when I say we are compassionate, this is what it looks like, giving examples of this is the line that I need you to step over when executing on our values.
Yep. And you want to know that those values are very clear, and that your employer has your back when somebody else is challenging that.
Bobby, I think that's a great place to wrap up.
All right. Well, I thank you guys so much for listening, as always. And we know that you hear this all the time from podcasts, but if you enjoy our show, reviews are super, super helpful, and they only take a moment. So please consider leaving us a review on your preferred platform. I'm not going to tell you how many stars to give it, but I bet you can guess. See y'all next week.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.